Welcome to the Daily Flow. Please welcome your host, John Coleman.
The topic for today is, what is the direction of travel? Is it the same as a vision? In Scrum, there's a thing called a product goal. What is it? And what is a sprint goal? So I want to start with talking about the direction of travel. And so direction of travel is what it says. Where are we going? But it's more about the direction than the destination. There's an appreciation, for example, in the Cynefin sense-making framework and in complexity, that we might want to move from our current situation in a particular direction, but we appreciate that we might not end up at a destination where that direction is. We might end up actually pivoting somewhere else. Is it the same as a vision? I would say no. I tend to be quite careful about the wording. I tend to talk more so about the direction of travel than a vision, because a vision is some kind of articulation of some destination that we'll hopefully achieve in the future. I think most people who work in complexity and agility understand that even if you have articulated a vision, it is our dream of where we might end up, and we appreciate that we could end up in a very different place. So for those practitioners out there and leaders and coaches who are able to embrace uncertainty, direction of travel and vision can mean the same thing, but maybe not for the audience that we're interacting with. So we just need to be a little bit careful about that. So I tend to try and stick with direction of travel where I can. And it's only if I feel that my language is getting a bit too complicated, where I don't know, for example, how what I'm saying will be translated by somebody else, then I might use language that's more comfortable for the client. But if I was using vision, I'd be really talking about understanding that even though we have that vision, it's we understand that could change, and that we could actually end up going in a completely different direction. We could end up pivoting into a different direction. In Scrum, they introduced the product goal, and immediately when I saw the guide, I thought that maybe product goal means the same thing as the vision. It can do, but I suggest that it's mostly not the same as the vision. The product goal tends to be much more tangible, something that's achievable. It might even have some kind of time horizon on it, but the primary reason for having a product goal is to set some kind of more tangible objective, something that's less idealistic. You could have a product goal that is idealistic, but what we need to be careful about, particularly when you're using Scrum, if you have a product goal that is, for example, an almost impossible perfection vision, it's almost impossible. Like human life on Mars, for example, where people rotating every 9 months like they do on the International Space Station at the moment. Is it impossible? It feels impossible at the moment. Maybe if you're optimistic, you could say it's almost impossible. If you had a Scrum team with a product goal that was aiming for rotations like that for human life on Mars, it might be very difficult for the Scrum team to commit to the Scrum values. And the Scrum values are really what capture a lot of the essence of beingness, I guess, the behaviors that you display, that you exhibit when you're in a team. So the 5 Scrum values: focus, openness, courage, commitment, and respect. It'd be very difficult to stay committed, to stay focused with such a really wide product goal. So product goal would tend to be less idealistic, might be more kind of in the kind of going to the moon, not going to Mars, might be more like getting to the dark side of the moon, actually, which would be doable, and probably doable within a year, actually. And you could have even shorter product goal, which might be, just having an automated dock with the International Space Station, for example. That would be something that more tangible. And if you wanted a sprint goal, it could be as simple as, well, maybe get some astronauts trained in some, zero gravitational environment, so that they're getting used to that. So goals are useful. They help to provide focus for Scrum teams. A direction of travel is also useful at Kanban. In complexity, there is a direction of travel And we ask that you use 3 time horizons in the direction of travel. So what's your almost impossible perfection vision? What's something more tangible, maybe in the next 1 to 3 years? And then maybe something much sooner. What can you achieve in the next, say, 3 to 6 months? But that kind of time range. And so, when you have a direction of travel with different time horizons, it gives people with different frames of mind. It gives them something to latch onto. The dreamers like Elon Musk can talk about Mars. The accountants can talk about, what are we going to achieve? How are we going to get to the dark side of the moon by the middle of next year or 12 months time, say. And the people on the team can kind of latch onto, okay, I can get my head around doing an automated dock with an International Space Station. I can get my head around doing some astronaut training as a more immediate sprint goal, for example. So I don't see direction of travel and vision as being the same thing. I see one being a kind of a twist on the other. I'm probably veering away a little bit from Kevin and my described a direction of travel, because really direction of travel from a Kevin point of view, as far as I understand, is more about we are here, where, what direction are we going in the kind of the medium term, where are we heading? I kind of stretch that out a bit more in the complexity guide. It's really useful to have some direction of travel. If you're using Scrum, to use a product goal, iterating towards an optional vision. Very useful, and in Scrum it's mandatory to have sprint goals they should be iterating towards the product goal. And so when we have a sense of where we're going, it means that when we're doing our retrospectives, for example, and when we're talking about doing continuous improvement to what end? Is there much point in improving if it's not going to help us to achieve the goals that we're striving for? The other thing to bear in mind as well, in terms of Scrum, is that we've got the 3 pillars: transparency, inspection, and adaptation. If you have a goal that is really so broad that you can't really tell what you're iterating towards it, if it's really kind of overwhelming, you might want to think about, should we have a product goal that's a little bit more tangible, something we can kind of get our head around. We understand we might have some further a product goal down the road that we're chasing, but it's good to have something that's a bit more tangible. It's more useful. It helps teams to be more empirical. Being empirical at the end of the day is basically building up evidence, collecting data on what we've done, getting feedback, and helping us decide what we do next. And if it's difficult for us to assess progress because our objective is too broad, it might become a problem. So a way to circumvent that is, you can still have the almost impossible perfection vision. You can still have your 1 to 3 year challenge. You'll notice some of you will recognize Toyota Kata language here. And of course, you might have something more immediate, like some kind of target condition that you're striving for.
Got a question for us? Leave a voice message at anchor.fm/dailyflow/message, and we'll feature it as well as provide you with an answer.